Alright, so apparently we are live. I am one of your casters, Weedle Bob, and joined today by another caster, Bob, which is going to be confusing, so I'll just be Weeble.
Hello, everyone.
And we also have two analysts with Sky and Marvel.
Heyo.
And TJ USB will be on camera duty.
So this is the finals matchup for first place of the Zerowatch tournament. Out of, I believe, 16 total teams, maybe more.
Looking at the standings, it looks like there were 18 teams to start with. And both of these teams are coming into this undefeated at 7-0 in the round robin, and then undefeated in the single. Alright, and we're starting. First map is going to be Busan, and the first stage of that is going to be... looks like... crap, I forget what the name is. Sanctuary? No.
Match.
I can't say the map's
Yes,
still...
yes, it's Sanctuary.
The one with the drums.
So one thing that might be interesting is that a new patch just went live recently, so a few heroes have been nerfed or buffed relative to where they were the rest of the tournament.
Yep, I believe Brig got a pretty big nerf where she's unable to stun through shields, and Doomfist got a bit of a nerf to his uppercut.
Yeah, and since there have been those changes without much time to practice, it'll be interesting to see if they still try out those heroes or go for something different.
Looks like the Firemeis are going to be running their signature maybe on chart.
Looks like a relatively divey composition here on the other side for the Trankaleity.
Yep, running those dive tanks with a tracer, and really the only not divey thing to have is the Junkrat. Well, it looks like they may be swapping off to a more standard 2-2-2 on Ryan Zarya with the Brig.
Round one, capture.
Alright, so they are going to, at least to the start with, try out that new Brig, see how it goes for them. Looks like both teams kind of coming straight towards the point.
Maywall goes up and isolates adversity, and he's down immediately.
That's the first pick.
Like, Trankaleity is probably going to back off here because they're down player, and And they made the first pick.
Second
Lozor
item
goes in and gets
goes
walled
up
off.
here. They got the stun on the Ryan, but just not good enough.
Trankaleity still trying to fight this despite being down a player. Now two players.
That player's back, but three is still going to take a little while to come back.
Time to raise my APM. Shoot you down.
And it does look like Firemeis are going to clean this up and hold on to the points. They're already at 25%. And Trankaleity is going to have to regroup before they can push again.
Trankaleity is looking pretty solid in the ult economy, though, with almost 3 ults up.
Yep. They do the Firemeis do have the Coalescence to counter that, but they still are about 20% off a lot of their ults. So if the Trankaleity is able to push in quickly, they will have the ult advantage here. Dragon comes out. They're out. Trankaleity and 2 and 3.
That looks like it might be enough to swap it. Followed up with the Fire Strike there. That might have been a little late for it to be really helpful in the fight. They could have probably saved that one.
They do manage to grab the point. Firemeis do end up getting about 60% though, so more than halfway done. However, they only both teams ended up burning 2 ults for that, so not too bad that Hero ended up burning the first shatter.
Well, that made them burn 3 because they spent the nano as well.
Okay. So Firemeis will have a definite ult advantage on this next fight. Mail, bomb. Bomb gets 2. Elphys has been on point with bombs in past matches. Looks like he's going to be doing the same this match as well.
Looks like all the other team kills.
And just like that, Firemeis take the point back and are 2/3 of the way to winning this stage. Adversity will be coming in with Grav in this fight though, so they may be able to get a team wipe with that. One of those team fight winning goals.
They are going to have to touch the points though, and this is Maywall.
Shatter, nade, and Grav comes out. I'm not sure that Grav was necessary.
There you go.
There is a complete team wipe there.
Well, we still have Charizard alive here.
But not for long. A lot of ults burned on that fight, but they did manage to take it. Probably a little bit too much though, because they burned 3 pretty... I cannot count, you're correct.
Everyone except for Falcon used it there.
Taking heavy fire.
And the Firemeis only have 1 ult themselves, but they are a lot closer to the first shatter and not too far off of bomb.
Maywall's used, didn't really get anyone, but that charge in there from Hero is going to be that good.
And Tower comes out and does grab Jippy. Adversity also grabs Bruce. So it looks like Trankaleity is going to be a hold this.
And at 80%, this really just means it's more or less coming down to the next fight. There will be anywhere from 3 to 5 ults. The maze though. Trankaleity pushed pretty far forward here. Let's see if they can get through the hit.
Like Firemeis aren't even able to touch. Yep, Hero goes in with a counter charge to make sure Cruz is stopped just before getting onto the point.
Quite the turnaround there.
Score 1-0.
I'm interested to see if the Firemeis will continue to run May on this point with City Center? Something like that. Because while May is fantastic on Mecha base, at least I'm not aware of her being particularly great on either City Center or Sanctuary, just because there aren't as good of chokes to wall people off with.
5, 4, 3.
And it does look Charizard.
It certainly looks like that. We're not seeing them making Charizard. Instead, it looks like they're going with the goat's composition from the Firemeis. Again, trying out new Brig. Meanwhile, we do have a Pharah on the other side and unopposed versus the goats. Looks like both Pharah and then the mech are gone.
Yep, looks like despite Fire being uncontested, it looks like the Firemeis Goats is going to win this fight, and they're going to take the first point.
That's one of the interesting things about Goats, really, is that it has a little more power versus Fire than you might think, thanks to D.Va and Moira, and then even Zarya's laser can get some amount of damage up into the air.
Yeah, as far you really have to make sure you maintain a lot of altitude just so that the Zarya and Moira can't hit you very lively, and then only they can really touch you, in which case your Mercy Pocket should be able to keep you alive.
Adversity jumping in, but not going to get any real picks, and Falcon is down again.
But Uber Driver has switched over to Reaper to try and deal with the tankiness of the Goats, but it does not seem to be working out, as the Goats are just Trankaleity and pushing them all the way back to spawn.
It's gonna be a big stagger too. They're buying a lot of time with this. Because now Trankaleity has to wait for their Mercy to respawn.
Also, great ult users. They've only had to use Charizard's Brig ult. Everyone else has either not gotten their ult yet or saved it.
So they pulled back a little bit, not gonna take the fight that far forward this time.
Firemeis do burn Zarya ult, but don't get anything for it. Trades on both sides. Delphus gets 2 with his bomb and a D-Max. That's huge value.
Pretty big. That should be enough to finish this off. We'll see if the Trankaleity can even get back in time for another fight.
The Pharah may be able to touch if she goes right now, but it's going to be close.
Falcon is going for it, but there's a lot of focus.
Not fast enough.
Can't quite get it there.
That's going to be 100-0. Firemeis taking the second round here.
Score. 1.
So now on this last map, which is mech-based, I would be very surprised if the Firemeis didn't run Mei here, because there's only a few choke points, and they're all awful to get through if the enemy team has a Mei.
And it looks like Charizard has made that switch back so far, so if they keep on this, they're going to be back to that composition. They are still running the triple tank here, at least for now, though.
It doesn't look like Trankaleity is going to be running anything in particular to try and counter that Mei. No Lucio even.
1. Round 3. Capture the objective.
Both teams opting for the high ground push.
But it looks like the Trankaleity is going to try and pivot a little more towards point. Maywall separates off Ana. Then, without their healers, they might have a hard time winning this fight.
Already it was currently even, both Ryan's down, but Uber Driver is taken up with Delphus, so now Firemeis with the advantage.
Pretty low though if they can finish them off. And D-Mech off the side is gonna be enough to kill them.
Ryan's are coming back in.
Still a brawl here on the point. That Maywall is gonna keep them getting to the point for just a little bit of time, but not long enough for them to actually cap it. Looks like Trankaleity has won this fight.
Certainly a long fight, but the Trankaleity managed to stick it out and take it, so now they are starting to build up their point percentage.
Yeah, and if you can't actually get the pick with the Maywall, then it does become a lot harder to gain relatively low damage. And they don't have another DPS on their team Grab doesn't get anything. It does buy a lot of time.
Yep, and they did manage to pick off 2 members even without that grabs. The Firemeis are going to have to retreat for momentarily, but now members start coming in.
And that dragon picking off 2 supports there is probably going to be enough to just end this fight early. Charizard still contesting it, gets 2. Jippy is slept off on the side, but it doesn't matter. It looks like Charizard and Delphi are really taking this fight.
Despite having no support that entire fight, they did manage to take that.
That was
Surprising.
an impressive turnaround there.
My ultimate is charging.
And
this
Charizard
is-
did build up ult from that as well.
This is where May really gets to shine when she's on defense. It's pushing
Now that
through
they have
any of
the
these
advantage,
chokes.
for sure.
It's gonna be awful for Tranquility.
Looks like they're gonna pivot and try and head underneath.
Firemeis sees that and rotates with them. Bomb comes out and the wall.
Picks up Ana. We are seeing the Zen Trance here will maybe save a few, but it's just not good enough. Hero stalling, spends the hammer there.
Yeah, not great ult usage there, although the Firemeis, on the other hand, have had great ult economy, because they only burned 2 ults that fight and won it very decisively, and still have 3 left for the next fight.
And they start up top and then pivot to the bottom again. See if it works for them this time.
They start the fight with a tire, but it's blocked off the wall.
Waiting for the Mei wall to go away, and it comes through.
Isn't able to get anything.
In the ice block. Ryan charges right into that grab to kill a lot. And that is the team kill.
They did have to burn 3 ults for that fight, though. But not a whole lot left on Tranquility's side either. It's a bit too late to swap.
Question how many can the driver pick up with this dragon? Adversity gets cut off. Fires off the dragon in the opposite direction, but does manage to pick up 1. And that's 2 more kills. Plus that the bomb there. Zone them off at the point. Can't get back on in time.
Victory.
Yep. And Firemeis take the first map, 2-1.
Play of the game.
Fire at will.
So now that we actually have some analysts
Triple kill.
watching this game, what did you guys think? Firemeis did particularly well, and what could the Team Tranquility have done to take the win instead?
So on Sanctuary, they got like really big value out of the walls at the start of that round, with twice getting a split and picking off a person, which allowed them to get the first cap super efficiently and start building charge. Trankaleity like fed a lot in that fight, and in general seemed to be using more ultimates with less results from them, unfortunately. So I think they need to focus on getting more out of their ults on whatever the next map is.
Right. For Sanctuary, like it seems like Firemeis was being very aggressive on the point, and it was really big for them when they were able to cap the point very early in the round. And what we'd like to see is Tranquility be more aggressive. Actually, they've been pretty passive, at least for the first map, where they just let Firemeis just walk up to the point and cap it, which is really big. And the fact that they were able to hold the point for like 60-70%, even though they may have lost that map, just gives them a lot of advantage right there. Playing Mei and being able to split the teams apart was really big for Firemeis. I would like to see more focus from Team Tranquility overall. It seems that there are points where they kind of group up and play together, but then there are also points where they just kind of just jump in and just hope for the best and hope for picks. There's not really much of a focus with that team.
Yeah, and on downtown they tried running Pharah, which I think could have worked well for them, but the Pharah seemed to be pretty much unsupported and was able to be taken out by Diva alone.
Right. The fair pick was actually a really great pick against their comp, the Goats comp. Like he said, they needed that Mercy to pretty much pocket the Pharah, and then they would have been uncontested with the Fair Mercy combo and pretty much have total control over that map. The only person that would have been able to contest the Fair was literally just the D.Va. If they had an ad, it would have been a better, but they weren't able to utilize. Trankaleity wasn't able to utilize the Fair efficiently because the Fair just died pretty much at the beginning of every fight, which we don't want that to happen because Fair is the main threat to a GOATS comp with that composition.
Traveling to Numbani.
So as we move into this next map, Numbani, Trankaleity did get to choose this map because they lost the previous one. What do you think of that
Initiating
choice
match.
versus the Firemeis and their general Mei composition?
Okay, so this map, it's a lot of verticality. So Mei, which they seem to be struggling against, Team Trankaleity seem to be struggling against, Mei's not going to be as good overall. So the type of composition that favors for this type of map is typically, for the first 2 points, is dive comps with high verticality. Pharaoh's pretty decent, definitely Winston D.Va combo.
And I like this map pick a lot because it favors the Junkrat Hanzo composition that Trankaleity has run previously.
And it looks like the Firemeis are going to stick with their triple tank Charizard on that Mei as their only DPS player.
Attackers incoming.
And
in 30
the
seconds.
Team Trankaleity is actually going to be playing that same Junkrat Hanzo with the dive tank, so they're going to have a lot of vertical moves. And Mei might not even be able to touch them if they play it right.
They are doing it on defense though, so.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
See through the giant's eyes.
Looks like Firemeis are opting to go for the lower path, going straight to point.
They get there pretty quickly. Looks like Hero on point does manage to escape before getting D-back. Delphi firing from behind, no one seems to really be paying much attention.
Trankaleity trying to get the advantage of this fight, but currently they're down 3, now 5 people. All that's left is that baby D.Va, and now she's gone, and that's going to be probably first point for Trankaleity, unless they can, Firemeis can get a great stall here.
Seeing a little emote there from Bruce.
Where she goes for the stall, but gets blocked by the Mei wall and instantly killed.
Jippy rounding the corner to put on a little bit of pressure here. Just to keep it so that Trankaleity stays a little bit farther back.
Seems to be working. They're deciding to hold at the second corner instead of...
Time to raise my
Uber does pick up Charizard, and it looks like they might be going for a push here with that mana advantage. Dragon comes out, doesn't get anything, but does split off D.Va, and forces the team to retreat back.
Now they're getting to use some of their fire pressure, but that's the fire strike.
Bruce gets a huge Earth Shatter. 4-man. No shield to really protect the rest of the Firemeis with his burst pushing up super far on the high ground.
We see Hero again use their ult in kind of a fight that they're behind in. Doesn't get anyone thanks to the wall.
Where she swaps onto the Zarya.
And that's a stagger on Hero as well, which is going to be pretty painful for Trankaleity.
Swap onto Zarya, let's see if Hero switches as well. He does switch onto the Reinhardt. But the Firemeis managed to get the second point relatively uncontested, really only taking one.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Firemeis are able to get pretty much free push here. The Team Tranquility is not really pressuring them. Nelkins gets the bomb out and doesn't get any kills though. However, it does force out the
Cruz is kind of out of position here. Let's see if they can take advantage of it. Hero does get the kill.
This is Zenalt gone.
Pretty big grab right there. That's going to be enough to pretty much wipe their whole team. Falcons coming back. Might be able to stall with the Riptire. They certainly got to try
get a huge Riptire through that. Doesn't get anything.
No one there to nest.
Firemeis take a extremely fast Nubani attack.
Score 0-3.
Virtually uncontested that entire map, with more than 4.5 minutes remaining for their second attack run.
Initiating match.
And that's one of the problems of playing something like those dive tanks into the triple tank composition is, you know, Winston's damage just doesn't go that far versus 3 tanks. And so you can't really easily contest where the enemy team is, and when it's a payload map, you gotta be able to get there.
And that third point, it'll also what allowed the Firemeis to get that huge grab at the end was Lozord burned Zenalt prematurely, so there was no defensive ult to counter the grab once it came out. Just allowed Firemeis to clean up pretty easily.
So they're gonna try out a McCree this time, it looks like.
Attackers
Or perhaps
incoming
go
in
to their
30
own.
seconds.
Nope, they're going for the Firemeis comp here with the Junkrat as well.
Yep, so it's pretty standard elsewhere though, so it looks like the Far is just going to try and get a pick or at least get some sort of advantage like breaking the Ryan shield before the rest of the team goes in.
It's interesting to note it's adversity on the Far this time. I believe it was Falcon on the previous map.
That's correct. So right now they're running a Far Junkrat, which means they're going to have tons of splash damage.
It seems like it'll be in a good position versus the triple tank. Do work with it. The Pharmacy's going in main while everyone else flanks.
Generally good practice in Far to put pressure from the rest, away from the rest of your team, so that the enemy has to focus on their points.
They're keeping a little bit of pressure on them, but not really enough to keep them out of the sky.
The rest of Tranquility goes long flank, trying to get the point.
Looks like they're kind of being split on both sides there. Some even trades, but a Mercy res on Charizard. It's pretty strong. Falcon does manage to kill Mercy while they go for the res, though. And Cruz dying to the static ability there.
Currently even on point.
Point, but Charizard's really defending it for now.
First he flies too low and gets taken up by Jippy. Hero soon after, and that's going to be fight cleaned up by the Firemeis, and no ticks for the for Team Trankaleity.
Adversity is at basically they have their ult now though, which might be useful. And that, at least for right now, is the only ult. However, if they enter into a fight, there will probably be a few more on both sides.
And an unassisted Far ult is not the greatest thing just because you're stationary and such an easy target, and there's nothing, without another ult to help you, there's nothing preventing the enemy team from just moving away. Versus he does burn if it dies for it without getting anything.
Don't really get much here. Hero charges onto point, uses their own slam, gets frozen.
Огонь по готовности!
Seeing a lot of ults thrown in here, but it looks like it's gonna work. And little desperation Moira ult from Lozord there.
Yep. Firemeis had to burn 3 ults for that fight, but it worked out for them because now there's about even ults on each side.
Like Trankaleity used 4 themselves. Firemeis get to set up again up top with Delphi on the side to take care of any errant Far.
Tranquility is trying to push down center again. Not very quickly.
Probably gonna get walled off here. Yep. There you go.
Not a complete wall though, so the rest of the team is able to get there. And Falcon's a huge tire with 3 kills.
We'll see what the follow-up is here.
Moira does get res, but I'm not sure if that's going to be enough.
Hero does manage to pick up Tonsu as well.
If he goes down, now it's just the Mercy left, and that is... Oh, Mercy and D.Va.
There, but they look like they're going to go ahead and retreat and let them have this point. Or
Bruce is
see if
back and maybe trying to contest. Nope.
They do get a pick on Uber Driver, but at this point with the spawn moved up, that doesn't really mean a lot. Trankaleity is just waiting for the card to pick up anyways.
So, Trankaleity finally able to break the Firemeis defensive with that huge tire at the beginning of that fight.
This straightaway does give a lot of space for
Big grab comes out, but not a whole lot of follow-up.
and there's the delayed ult diversity there.
Had 2 ults burned and really no value for that. Firemeis are just gonna clean this up and force Trankaleity back to spawn. First he switches off onto the D.Va and Uber Driver switches on. So no more pressure from this guy. See if that ends up working for them. There throws out his ult. Only gets Hero, but
Fight against Ice. They are gonna struggle there. This fight is looking quite good for Firemeis. You see 3.5 ults on both sides, so pretty even there at least.
However, at this point, even if the Trankaleity manages to push to the end of the map extremely quickly, they're going to have a lot less time than the fight.
It'll definitely be an uphill battle.
Grab comes out, but doesn't
they get one with the...
Uber Driver gets 2. Currently up one in favor of the Team Trankaleity.
The Creed definitely seems to be doing a bit better here than some of their previous picks. Uber Driver is stalling. McCree was actually subject to a very slight buff as well in this patch set. The Fan the Hammer now does a little bit more damage than that.
It doesn't look like Uber Driver is taking advantage of that though, because all of his shots seem to be left clicks, and he's doing work with it, except he pushes out really far and gets killed for
Finally
it.
gets killed. Bruce's shield is basically down. That will give a little bit of space for Falcon to get in and kill him.
Only one with that rip tire, but that might be enough with how far the spawns are for the defenders.
The numbers are definitely looking in favor.
Delphus gets demeched.
Tested just a few meters away from the point.
Diversity goes down, but Uber Driver also takes out the Firemeis area.
Still just running all throughout this fight. It looks like they abandoned the part for just long enough for them to get another 3 meters, but they're still just a little bit off, and it looks like they finally get it.
Once again, Hero just burned his Shatter and didn't get much for it. Used it against a ice block Mei.
Trankaleity is pushing forward to try and keep the Firemeis down a little bit.
Yeah, but they only have 1 on payload. It's not going to be pushing fast. Now they back up a bit and get...
Don't get anyone with charge out there, so that's pretty good for Trankaleity.
However, it does...
Swinging the hammer. A lot of focus on them. The
grab comes out, doesn't get much.
In it, but doesn't, well, it stalls long enough.
Falcon comes out with the rip tire that gets 2 and gets 1 and demecks Delta.
They pick up the kills here. They might be able to win this fight, but then the spawn is so close that there might even be one more fight.
With the amount of time that's left, this is probably going to be the last fight. Only 20 seconds remaining.
And if they test it into overtime, if they can, then they don't really even get a proper push.
Yeah, goes into overtime, and all they can do... Delphus gets a huge bomb, and that's probably going to be the fight over right. Only Moira left alive, but not able to get... Oh, she is able to get the point, but probably not going to last long.
Pretty serious sustainability while that ult is going.
Against 6 people, that amount of sustainability just isn't going to be enough, and Firemeis end up winning Nubani, taking the series to 2-0.
Play of the game.
Nerf this!
That final stall, getting a triple kill.
Delph has been on point with all these bombs these days.
In those fights with just a few seconds left, it's really easy to just get distracted, be thinking only about, you know, getting those final few meters, and just not pay attention to a D.Va bomb.
So now, with this being a best of 5, the Firemeis only need to win one more map. What do the analysts think that the Team Trankaleity needs to do in order to prevent them from losing 3-0?
So what worked for them may have been a little bit too late. So they had Ubers play one of his comfort pick, which is McCree, and he started popping off. I think that's what they should have done since the start. I think at the start they were playing dive with on defense with the the verticality in mind, but they definitely need to work on playing dive tank. So they pretty much went comfort picks for the most part, and I feel that if they are going comfort picks, they should have everyone play the characters they feel most comfortable with, and making them make Kree switch right at the end definitely helped out, but it was a little bit too late.
Yeah, I think like Uber seems most comfortable on McCree and Hanzo, and I think like generally I wouldn't recommend McCree versus what Firemeis are running, but it seemed to really work for them. I think Hanzo would have also been quite good, just because he has so much burst damage versus the tanks and the ability to get the instant picks.
Yeah. Firemeis been doing really well overall. Like, they've been grouping up together, and they've been focusing heroes like together as a team for the most part. And actually, like, their Mei is doing really well with the walls and the ults overall. They were able to buy a lot of time and stall and get picks. So I think moving forward, if Tranquility figures out that Firemeis will definitely have Mei in pretty much their composition, then they should, find something that would counter Mei. I think that would be their best decision.
I think even if they can just do a better job of baiting out walls, because they seem to usually have one person caught out. But I also realize that that's like it's hard to give no opportunities for a good wall.
Right. Yeah, baiting walls, it's kind of hard depending on the map. Easiest way is probably just to adjust to either you burn down the wall with a certain composition, or you force them, to ignore the walls. Going dive it's good. Like maps like Nubani, because you can just jump over the wall or just jump back and regroup, stuff like that. But they need to figure out a way to either circumnavigate the Mei wall or ignore Mei completely.
I think the other thing is on Firemeis' attack. They let Firemeis get to the point basically for free. They didn't scout that they were going underneath, I think. And so they just got to walk in rather than walking through a rain of junk nades, which would have hurt a lot more. And the other thing was that they didn't swap until point C, really, it seemed, after they lost A. And against GOATs, once they cap A, if you haven't swapped on B, then usually they just roll through, which is exactly what happened, unfortunately.
So it looks like Uber Driver here is going to stick with that McCree that was starting to work out towards the end of Nubani. And meanwhile, the Firemeis, it looks like they're considering a GOAT's composition for the attack again.
And Trankaleity is going to be going for the Orisa Hog combo, commonly known as pulled pork. Getting that right click from the Orisa to get everyone grouped up together, and then Hog just throws in a hook. Pretty much gets a free hook if you're used to that combo. It does take a little bit of practice to get the timing down right, though.
I think the main thing that like Trankaleity should be looking out for here, at least on their A defense, is letting goats get like around the side and approach them without getting any picks. If something like that happens, they need to make sure that they rotate quickly.
3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Firemeis are going to push straight through the center.
Far in the back here. Gets a nade down on. Still being ignored by their team for now. Looks like Cruz has noticed they're up there. But still no one's actually firing anything up there. So Ana's going pretty uncontested, just firing healing down into this battle.
Hog goes down, but so does Lucio. Currently, even Jippy gets another pick, which makes gives an advantage to the Firemeis.
Looks holding on to the corner at this point to at least stall it for a little bit of time. It's not too long.
Looked like they may have been able to pull that off, but in the end, the Firemeis just were able to stand through it and win the fight without losing very many themselves.
Yeah, it certainly looked like a matter of good positioning and strategy, but in the end, they just have as good a aim as the other team.
Firemeis just gonna push straight down the center on B, as you do with goats.
They're actually pushing past the point almost to chase down Uber driver. Charizard trying to contest Uber. Looks like Uber's gonna win that fight at least. But that does leave Uber off of the point. Finally comes back.
Huge tire.
3 there. That'll end this fight. We'll see if Uber can stagger the Moira here, get a little bit of more time.
Both teams ended up burning 3 ults that fight, but the Trankaleity is going to have 3 ults for this next fight. 1, or 2, maybe 3 for Firemeis. And with all that momentum gone, that's probably their best chance of taking point B. We'll see if they can rush in here.
Gets Falcon now.
Falcon gets solo shattered, but ends up taking Lucio with his passive.
This is looking pretty good with the Arista ult here. They did spend 2 ults, but it looks like just to the shatter of the enemy. But if it holds the point, then that's worth something.
Yep, did end up burning more ults, but I think it was worth it because they were able to repel the Firemeis without burning too much.
Push a little farther forward here, trying to see if Hog can, or Uber Driver can land a pick, forcing the Firemeis to rotate around the side.
Looks like they're just going to push up the right side.
Lucio and speed boost up and over the right side wall.
Toggle comes out, blocked by the wall, and killed by that Diva Bomb.
Relatively even on point. It looks like it's down to just Zarya and Mei.
And with Mei slipped,
this angle attack
Zarya
is not
goes down,
better.
and
they might even end up staggered here, which is not great for them.
Trankaleity managed to hold that despite only burning 2 ults.
Also, note that they did switch back to the Mei instead of the triple tank for now. Instead of the goats, they're still on triple tank.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Like, Firemeis are going to try pushing up the left side this time.
And they're nearing 4 ults, but then again, so is Trankaleity. So it's pretty even on the ult economy now.
Firemeis is just kind of staying here on the left side, not really pushing in as a group. Finally start moving forward.
They might end up dying to this Riptide here. There's so many of them.
Try comes out, gets
and it
2.
does pick up 2 as they just come right through the wall. Adversity also lays down their ult, but it dies relatively quickly.
Yeah, Firemeis are able to pick up a few kills, but in the end, definitely looks like the Team Trankaleity is going to be able to hold this no problem.
In that fight, the Firemeis were the ones who burned through more ults with Grav, Shatter, and Coalescence.
Yeah, all Trankaleity needed to do is burn that tire, which charges super fast anyway. They're already almost up to a quarter of it again.
Yes, especially versus a triple tank composition, you can really build up that tire pretty easily. Just keep throwing damage into them. Goose's shield is down, which is going to make it a little bit harder for them to push it a little bit. While he waits for it to recharge. But the fight right now is still pretty stalled. They might try and use the Stratovats ult to push in here together, or they'll wait until they get a little bit more. Charizard at 97%.
Once they got a point, that May ult's gonna pretty much lock down the entire point.
I think that's what they were waiting for.
Lozor gets picked.
Combine that, losing ult. And this should be a pretty good fight for them. Adversity getting flanked.
Kill feed's all red right now. Really all that's left is Ana and Zen. Now just Ana. She's not gonna last long.
A whole lot of ults on Trankality's side, but they just can't get in there. Still, a pretty good hold on that second point, given how fast first point was taken.
0-2.
Yep.
Switching sides.
Only a minute and 56 left.
Given how much the Firemeis run May, I would be very surprised if they didn't run it here on defense.
Yeah, the early choke point seemed like a great place to put that to use.
Yep, and they are going to be running May, so let's see what Trankaleity decides they want to run to try and counter that, considering they've had a lot of issues pushing into that May.
Yeah, the picks from the May wall are really big. I know Sky was talking a little bit about that between maps. I actually talked with Jippy a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how they, particularly in a tournament like this, where the teams are, kind of randomly put together with a grouping of different SRs, you see a little bit less team coordination than you might in other tournaments, and so you can really take advantage of that with a May.
Firemeis still running that triple tank with May. Still half the team not selected for Trankaleity though. Uberdra is going to go on to the McCree. Doesn't look like they're going to be bringing anything out in particular to try and deal with that.
1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
They're gonna keep Hero on the Roadhog.
Enemy contact.
Going around this side.
All comes out, gets
going to get Rig separated off, as well as Ryan. Both of them
both
go
go down.
I would expect them to get disconnected.
Cruz already with the Shatter.
Shatter builds really fast when you get to swing your hammer. With the Maywall, Cruz got to do exactly that.
That's going to be almost a total wipe for the Trankaleity. Trankaleity opting for main this time, pushing straight down the center.
Adversity
Gets walled off again though.
And does manage to get the counter charge to pick off Charizard though.
Uber Driver goes down, but still currently in favor of Trankaleity up to
Diva Bomb. Looks like this is going pretty well for Trankaleity. If they can turn around, pick off Lucio.
no supports left, only 2 tanks.
And Adversity's gonna get that pin on Cruz.
Diva, he's not gonna last long.
Pretty good stall there.
Trankaleity able to take
cap time for them too.
got on the second push. Didn't have to burn a whole bunch of ults to do that. So we'll have a lot of momentum coming into this with 4 ult to 1 from the Firemeis.
They're gonna open up the fight with Coalescence here.
Wall comes out, stop Hero on the Hawk.
Great, but it seems like they're honestly pushing enough through it that they might be okay. Falcon finishes off. Jedi picks off the yeah, this
driver just popping off.
A lot better for Trankaleity.
Charizard stalling with the ice block, but it's not going to last for too much longer.
It might last long enough for the team to get back there, which is what really matters.
Blizzard does get shattered and pinned.
Counter shatter.
And you're right, it looks like the ice block was enough for the Firemeis to regroup, and looks like they're going to be winning this fight, and Team Trankaleity didn't even get a
They
kick.
were really close there, but just wasn't enough. Adversity charges back out to their team, but still get picked off anyway.
Trankaleity invested a lot in that fight, all 4 of the ults that they had coming into it. Now they have nothing to the 3 that Firemeis have.
I mean, it seemed good, but the Mace all there was so useful in letting the team respawn, since the respawn is so close on this one.
You're walled off again, frozen and killed. Adversity tries for the shatter, but gets frozen and ends up wasting it. Well, Cruz goes in
again,
counter.
gets walled off and then shattered and killed.
That is going to be Trankaleity running back to spawn. If the Firemeis will let them know, that's Falcon getting staggered, and probably Lozord as well. Yep.
Behind here.
Still almost 4.5 minutes left in the time bank though, so they still have a lot of time to try and take this second.
Yeah, it's gonna be a matter of keeping their cool and staying together.
Time to read my APM.
Hero swaps off onto D.Va.
Get through this. Enemy. Time to read my APM. Nerf this. Mega action.
D.Va comes out and gets thirsty, even though he's holding up the shield.
Looks like Falcon got taken out there too. So it's gonna be yet another regroup for Trankaleity. Still 3.5 minutes to go for them.
However, they are going to have even ults coming into this, 3 to 3. And if Falcon get another big tire like he's been getting pretty consistent, this might open the fight up for them to take the lead.
Driver and Logo is quite close too. We haven't seen them get too much value out of them, but at least it's a start. Driver goes behind, tries to go for it, but Charizard spots him.
Falcon gets solo shattered as he tries to tire and has been killed. And that definitely looks like the Firemeis are going to be taking this fight again. At this point, there's only about a minute difference between Firemeis and Trankaleity in terms of time bank, so Trankaleity's got to move a bit quickly now if they want to stay competitive in terms of time.
Pretty far down in this ult economy though.
Yeah, trying to push into a May when there's a 5 ult advantage is getting difficult.
Time to read my APM.
Off by the follows. Not even resetting here. Fighting a 4v6. Uber Driver gets one pick, but I don't think it's gonna really be enough given the relative distance between the 2 spawn points. It does build up a little bit of a charge in the process, though, and now has his ult again.
Now, looks like Trankaleity is going to have the even, or almost even ults coming in with 4, but Cruz is getting close on his Earth Shatter, so they might, Firemeis might have 5 in this fight.
this.
Throws in the bomb.
Doesn't get anything though. Jedi comes out as well. Does DMAC the Diva.
Grav tries to stall adversity. Does work. Keeps adversity out of the fight, and by the time he comes back, it's just not doing a lot. Boost spots and coming and has the shield up for the shatter.
Time to leave my PCM.
A lot of ults burn that fight. Didn't get anything for it, so it looks like they're gonna have to really hope that Falcon gets a lot of value out of this tire in this.
With only 40 seconds and giving it such high power, they're pushing forward to just stall it as much as they can. The advantage is definitely with the Firemeis here.
Bomb does end up getting a tire and Lucio, and the kill feed's all red. This is definitely going to be over. There's 5 seconds left in the map. No one's going to be able to touch. That's going to be the Firemeis. Oh wait, nope, there's a Moira in the back. And she's dead.
But dies very quickly against the entire other team.
And that's going to be the Firemeis taking the series 3-0.
Play of the game.
See that well-timed tire will get the play of the game here.
Epic.
Mighty fine.
So, do the analysts have any thoughts on what the Team Tranquility could have done better on Anubis there?
Trankaleity did pretty well on when they're defending. Firemeis had trouble pushing through the Risa shield for the most part. But ultimately, Tranquility definitely had trouble against Mei. And when they were playing attack, I felt that they needed to either get like a Lucio, so they close ground. Half the time on point B, they're just trying to get up to point, and they're just getting poked at the whole time. Or they kept getting separated by the Mei wall because they weren't able to group up together, you know. Having a Lucio with a speed boost into the fight would definitely help with forcing engages. And I mean, there's always, if they're going goats, there's always the option of just to go goats as well. I don't think you could go wrong on this map. Historically, it's been really hard to take point B in one go, and if they're kind of holed up with goats, then you kind of just need to brawl it out, and then, you know, just use all your ults and brawl it out, and just take the point, like with a team wipe. That's like the best way to do it. Then again, Mei is really strong in that map on defense, and then Firemeis played really well on Mei. I'd say the MVP would probably be Mei overall, just because of those walls and separation, and the ult and that big stall on point B that kind of reversed that. That would have been the cap if it weren't for the Mei.
Yep, the Trankaleity was like really saved by those huge tires on their defense. I like with how quickly Firemeis got to cap point A, I was worried that they would have like a 5+ minute time bank. But the tires came through them repeatedly and whittled that down to 2 minutes. Great. Unfortunately, on the attack, they just couldn't get in, and the tire is harder to set up on the attack, of course, since the defenders get to position themselves however they like relative to the choke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I felt that on defense, Junkrat is pretty good, but on offense, they need to switch up the roles a bit more. It's a little bit too static in terms of how they keep pushing it the same way and doing the same thing. They really need to try to make some switches in order to push through Firemeis defense, especially when they have their Mei.
Relatively small thing, but also like the Rhine who has a Zarya to enable him is always going to have a big advantage over a Rhine that has a Hog or a Diva instead. Just in terms of like having those bubbles to help protect him so he can swing more and build those shatters faster, and generally just get in and out alive helps a lot.
Right. On top of that, I guess if your off-tank player doesn't like playing Zarya and they prefer playing D.Va, D.Va could still help out the team by eating ults, especially like the grab and the Mei ult. Those would have been big.
Yeah, it seems like most of the CC ults were, like the CC ults were landing more often than not for Firemeis, which is always going to make it hard to win a fight in spite of those.
Right.
And they're particularly potent pushing through those chokes, of course. You have nowhere to go.
Yeah, pretty much against Mei, you either need to break down the wall or close the gap. Like something to break the wall or Lucio speed boost or something just so that you can engage. Just getting split is not fun against a Mei.
Overall, I thought it was a pretty good match, even though I think it was more exciting than the 3-0 scoreline would suggest. There were a few moments when I thought Trankaleity had a real chance at winning the maps.
And I mean, we saw that really early on, even on the first stage of the first map. Trankaleity did take that one.
Yep.
All right, so thanks for that analysis. We now have Jippy and Charizard from the Firemeis here for some interviews.
Hello.
Hello. Is this actually working? It says I'm still muted.
Yes.
It's still working.
All right, so first, congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was a stressful game. One of our teammates had the great idea of pretending that we were losing, because that's when we play the best. Normally, how these games go is that we lose 2 and we panic, and then we have to make up the next 3, and then we end up winning those 3. So that's how we played the whole time this time, as if we were losing.
I know chat was asking if Charizard has any hot Mei tips.
So the wall is definitely Mei's largest advantage. Basically you watch their tank line, specifically Reinhardt and Zarya, also Roadhog, and as soon as they push up too hard, run at them as fast as you can and place the wall right behind them, and then run straight up directly to the Reinhardt and start freezing him. And even if he faces directly at you, you can usually get close enough to still freeze him behind his shield, and he has nowhere to back up to. And then you yell, Reinhardt, 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 and get your team to run at him and kill him. It's great when you have your own Reinhardt to do a charge attack and have that kind of cooperation.
Yeah, we've had a lot of luck. So we've also run this in HGL a lot, because me and Charizard were on the same HGL team. We've had a bunch of practice just walling their tanks and just killing the tanks as quickly as we can with the Reinhardt. So it's worked really well there, and it's worked really well here.
On your Anubis defense, were you surprised by the countercharge after after walling off the Rhine?
Which defense part was this?
On A, I think.
I got frozen, or I got charged at one point in time. I did have enough time that I could have ice blocked, and I was really kicking myself for not ice blocking there. He got a good pick on me.
Yeah, I believe that was the second push that Trankaleity had, where they ended up taking the point in the end. Is there Ryan managed to pin Charizard?
Yes, and he pinned me on a long straightaway too. Jippy got a good bubble on me, as Zarya, and the bubble faded just before I hit the wall.
Yeah, I thought you'd be safe because of the bubble, but it was too far.
Yeah, if Ryan was aiming anywhere closer, then the bubble would have saved me.
Yeah, I think in general on that defense, we got a little bit scattered, and once we get scattered, it was a lot harder for us to keep composure and keep doing things. But you could kind of see second point that we were able to control the fights a lot better, and we were able to go up one earlier in the fights.
One tip I have against Mei for Temple Point B is if you speed boost around the right side, so from the attacker's perspective, if you speed boost around the right side and you jump up on the wall there's not a lot of great places where I can wall. At least not as good as the main or the left.
Yeah, especially since you can just like jump between the walls, like once you get through the very narrow portion.
Mm-hmm.
So a question from chat for Jippy is, how do you keep your charge so close to 100% so much?
With the comp that we're running with like the Mei and the Reinhardt, we're forcing a lot of fights like on top of the Reinhardt, using the walls. So like usually what will happen in a fight is like the wall will go up, our Reinhardt will start swinging, and whoever gets walled off is kind of in panic mode and they're trying to do whatever they can to stay alive and to do damage. So it's just when the wall goes up, I bubble our Rein and I get a bunch of charge off that. And then if like in the ensuing fight, like everybody's kind of shooting everywhere, and it's just like kind of walk around and press buttons and bubble whoever looks like they're in the middle of the most of the enemy team. So like a lot of times that's our Reinhardt still, because he's just kind of swinging away. I was bubbling our Brig on, what was it? It was on Busan a bunch because Brig was playing more aggressive there. And like both of those, it's like because they're the melee characters, they're like taking a lot of damage from the other team. So.
And another thing he does is between fights, he'll always push up and then ask one person to come with him to come take damage.
Will sometimes not work as well, as you could see when I got picked off that one time.
He only got picked off once, but at the very end of Temple Point B, I was yelling at Jippy to come back because he was going to get picked again, and they were going to snowball in.
I think that was the time we were the most worried on that defense, was where I went down early in the fight. But my team played really well around it, and were able to hold the point. So we got really lucky.
If they had pushed in right then when they got the pick on Jippy, like on full force, then it might have been an issue.
Right. Another question from chat. Charizard, how do you decide where to place your walls generally?
Normally, I place it immediately behind the tank. So I place it as close as possible to the tank that is also in a choke point. But you want to make sure that a lot of the time when Mei is running at a tank, they're backing up because they know what's coming. So you want to make sure that you don't actually get the wall to touch them at all, because if the wall does touch their heels, then it'll lift them up and they can back up over the wall, and you've totally lost the cooldown at that point.
I think my favorite question that I've seen from chat is how do you keep up your morale when you are required to switch off of Mei and play Brig or something else?
Brig is another one of my mains, so I like playing her. I don't lose morale for that.
Did you feel like you noticed the changes in this matchup from the patch that just went live?
I was very aware that I could not do a bash shatter, but I actually didn't feel like that was needed. Our Rein was pretty darn good at finding times to shatter them.
Yeah, he does a really good job working around whatever they have up, because we are honestly really bad at bash shatter. So like we never really planned around that before, and we never really like focused on the shield as much. So he's just been like kind of finding them whenever he can, and he's been doing a good job of it. Funny story about the bash not going through shield. In a quick play game right before this, when we were warming up, our Rein actually, like the Brig on the other team tried to bash him. He was really surprised and really happy that he didn't get bashed anymore.
Yeah, it was great. Our Rein was holding up his shield. The other Brig walked up, pulled up her shield, and I was like, "Oh, is she gonna do it? Is she gonna do it?" She tried to bash and it didn't work, and I was like, "She did it!"
All right. Question for both of you. So apparently, the Firemeis had one of the highest standard deviation SR in the tournament. Do you think that affected you positively or negatively, and how so?
Interesting about the high standard deviation. Somebody invited me to a custom game, and now I'm going to be inactive and get removed from it. So I'm just going to leave because it's beeping in my ear. Sorry. So the highest standard deviation. Jippy, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell if it's a positive or a negative, because on one hand it means that I have players that are like around my skill level. So like I'm one of the diamond players on the team. Charizard's another one of them. Dolphus is a third one. So we have like kind of these players that understand the game really well, or really well. That's for some standard. And it's useful to have people that you can rely on, that don't have to be like, you don't have to try to
like they already know the game's meta.
Like they kind of know what they're doing.
But and then on the other hand, we also found that our whole the whole rest of our team also improved significantly during this tournament.
Yeah.
So like each match had some rough spots in it, and then we all ended up pulling through. And like throughout the tournament, everybody on our team had like an amazing play that saved us at some point in time.
Yeah, and it's also I think it kind of helps that like we can kind of so the better players on the team or the higher SR team players on the team can kind of mentor the other players on the team. So I think like that aspect of it helps a lot. Whereas if you don't necessarily have that and everybody's kind of the same skill level, it's less easy to do that.
Yeah, so I'd say that the standard deviation was actually probably helpful.
I know that's one of the things that like even as being a player in the tournament, I really enjoyed, and if anything, it's perhaps actually works pretty effectively. I know they said that the average SR went up a good few hundred points of players in this tournament from last year compared to this year. All right. I don't know if there are any more questions from chat, but it looks like
TJ's typing.
TJ's typing. Okay.
Oh, the very important one. What does Jiffy eat for breakfast? And does that contribute to your skill?
Waffles.
No, I don't eat waffles.
Pancakes.
I eat like fruit and eggs and stuff. I usually eat at work, so.
I'm glad they asked you that question. All right, see ya.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to do the interviews. It was great to watch y'all play.
Thanks a ton to everybody who casted these, because it's like they have to take the time to not get to play in them, but to broadcast them. But it's really cool to have it done. So
and for the people watching, there will be one more match. The third place match for this tournament will be taking place. I actually don't have the dates for those on me right now.
I believe it's 12/16.
Yep, the 16th. We're getting confirmation of that. 8 p.m. again, I believe.
Same stream, unless
PST.
TGA disappears.
Yeah, PST.
Pacific. All right.
All right, see ya. GG's.